all these things. It's just a lot of practice, and which we'll get into that in another video. Practice is a very important key. I started at New Balance in 2018. Adidas sweatsuits, like whatever was popping in the 90s, those, like, my dad had it for me. Anything nylon, anything that said anything that made that noise, it was in my closet. Bet we good. What's up, guys? When are we getting Donda? Like, for real. Like, it's been second play. That's not what this is about. Today I wanted to start my series. Something that actually, is something super important to me. I felt like it would be a great way, one, for y'all to get to know me a little bit better. Two, kind of give you some, like, advice in life, I guess. Like some life advice, life coaching. And three, just kind of tell some, stories. And so that I've been through, but I feel like this is like more educational than anything, but I feel like you can take from it what you will. But essentially the idea is to essentially go through, what it took for me to get to where I'm at today, and the people that helped me in that process in getting here. And basically, some of the steps that I feel like other people can take, these general principles that people can follow to get them to where they desire to be in life as well. If you have any questions or anything, leave me in the comments or feel free to DM me or whatever, however the kids do it. But really, it's just like, again, take this information as you will. You don't have to follow it by any means. It's just advice, and before I start, I owe everything, all of my success and the opportunities that were provided to me by Pencil Design Academy. I started at New Balance in 2018, technically. I think as an intern, because I took the class in 2017, the Pencil New Balance design class, which if you want to know more information about Pencil, how it works and the whole structure and everything, I'll leave a link in the description. And if you have any questions, go ahead and ask me, feel free. So I started around then, and it was all thanks to, again, the people that I knew, but then also understanding what it was that I wanted to do. And I felt like, me being 14 or whenever I first met Dwayne, 13 years old, like understanding what I wanted to do and where I wanted to be in life, that really helped give me a head start on everything that I really, again, wanted to do. So, and where I wanted to be. And thankfully knowing that, so early on, it made the process and the journey a lot clearer and a lot easier to follow, I would say. Once you have a goal and an end destination or a desired place you want to be, all you have to do is really put the work in at that point. I feel like a lot of us, we struggle with trying to figure out what that end destination is, and we're just putting work in a bunch of different directions without, a desired goal. If you're like, chopping away over here and then you stop, chop away over here, stop, chop over. If you're doing all that, you will never really get to that place you want to get to in time. You know what I mean? Like, 'cause you don't really master anything. So if you understand what that is early on, it'll be easier for you to and pursue it in the way that makes sense. And so, again, for me, I'll kind of get into my story quickly, and then I'll kind of get into some examples. But with me specifically, when I was a kid, I was really young. I would say like to probably 5 or 4 years old when I first started just drawing, like, and understanding like that I was drawing and creating things and getting admiration for the things that I drew and understanding that I had a talent. It was around that age. So I came from a family. My dad is a hyper realist artist. So he does graphite on paper, and he makes these super realistic portraits and things like that. And so I grew up watching him do that, or looking at all of his drawings around the house, and like his work. And I always wanted to basically replicate it. Like, I'm one of those classic situations of like father son where I just want to do everything my dad does. But I'm the classic case of just like father and son admiration. Like, I always wanted to basically do what my dad did or whatever he was into, I was into. Like, I'm a diehard Cowboys fan because of him, diehard Raiders fan because of him. Like, my name is Jordan. He's a huge Michael Jordan fan. I was named after Michael, which I'll get into a little bit too. But everything he wanted to do, like I said, he was a fine artist, so I always wanted to draw just like him. Anything he did, I was like a mimic. I'm still a mini me of him, basically. A lot of people say that. And so I've always looked up to him. I always admired him, and he's really been like my idol. Early on, like I said, when I used to draw, I used to try to imitate like all these hyper-realist drawings he would have, and just try to mimic them as best as I could. And I could never do it because, when you're a kid, you don't really have the muscle memory for drawing like that. You don't have the vision for shadows and light and stuff like that. Like, all that stuff that comes with being a really good illustrator, like, takes time and understanding of depth and all these things. It's just a lot of practice, and which we'll get into that in another video. Practice is a very important key as well. But understanding like that, all that stuff takes that in order to become great at it. And at the time, I didn't really understand that. And, back to, again, me sketching when I was 4 or 5, like, no one ever told me I was bad at something. They kind of, like, everything I picked up early on I was pretty much natural at, or at least, like, had some sort of skill to where I didn't really have to practice much at it. I mean, these are the things I was really interested in. So, like, drawing, sports. I would say baseball's pretty trash when I first started. That's probably why I didn't keep playing. But football is really naturally good at. Basketball is really naturally good at. So all these things I kept pursuing because when you never have to work for anything, you think everything comes to you naturally. That's what you do. Like, you just kind of fall into it and feel like, okay, well, I'm good at this, so I might as well focus on this. And that was my mindset forever until, the shock of trying to draw people like my dad and realizing I couldn't, and figuring out, okay, if I can't do this, but I still like to draw, and I still like, and again, back to me looking up to my dad and my mom, I was always looking for their approval. So they would come home and I would like show them a drawing and be like, yo, what do you guys think of this? What do you like this? And they would always encourage that too, like, especially on summer break. Like, if we weren't like, my mom would always encourage me to read. She would like bribe me to try to be like, yo, if you read this whole Harry Potter book in a week, I'll give you $50. Like, she always was trying to get us to, learn and expand our minds. And so if it wasn't reading, it was drawing or, creating or being creative with arts. My little brother, he was really creative in terms of like cooking and baking, and like he started making up all these different dishes. But then also he's super creative in drawing. Like, he's a super creative illustrator, and that's one thing I'm jealous of with him is his like creativity when it comes to drawing. But I would always do that with my parents, and so I basically got tired of showing them pictures of faces that really didn't look that good. So I was like, okay, what can I draw that I can like impress my parents with, basically? Or like, what can I draw that my dad can't draw? And so that's when, at the time, my parents had already been buying me like shoes from a young age. Like, again, my name is Jordan, so I basically came out the womb with a 23 on my back. Like, everything was, I had Nike sweatsuits head to toe. Whatever was hot in the 90s, honestly, like Fila sweatsuits, Adidas sweatsuits, like whatever was popping in the 90s, those, like, my dad had it for me. Anything nylon, anything that said, anything that made that noise, it was in my closet. Like, coming from that background, like, and seeing where I'm at now, honestly, like, it makes all of the world of sense. Like, I was kind of built to be here. This path, like, I do believe in destiny. Honestly, I know a lot of people don't believe in destiny, but to me, like, this is like one of those situations where, like, how could this not be destiny? Like, this is the only thing that makes sense. At a certain point, I had to just start drawing something different. So all the shoes and stuff that my parents would buy me, like, again, my dad's been collecting shoes since 85, bro. Like, the first Jordan he bought, and then like bought all of them since then. He doesn't have all the OGs. I think the oldest original he has is the Jordan 6, the black and red, the infrared. But it's like, it's tore up. I have to show y'all one day. It's messed up. He played ball in them and everything. That's what you're supposed to do back in the day, because those were actual basketball shoes. So they're messed up, but he still has those. And so, I always had shoes. So my dad would buy me shoes. Again, I was one of those hype kids. Like, I didn't know what that was, obviously, when I was younger. But you see how, like, on Hype Beast, all these little kids with the full-out Supreme outfits and stuff. Like, that was me, but just in 99. You know what I mean? So, in 2000. So, basically, whenever I would get a new pair of shoes, and to use this for example, I would basically like, get a shelf or find a some sort of ledge, and I had like a desk. My dad had like a little drawing desk for me, like a little workstation in my room. So I had a little shelf right in front that was like eye level, and I would put the shoes eye level in front of me when I had a new pair of shoes and just draw them and like I would come up with my own colorways. I would trace over, like I would draw a shoe once and then trace over the outline like 3 times so I can have 3 different colorways. I wasn't really making copies. I didn't really understand it at the time, but I would just like redraw stuff. So I was doing this for fun, and eventually I got to a point to where I would like go on the internet and look up Jordan 1 through 20 whatever. I think I got to 20, I think 22 was the time, around 21, 22 was the time when stuff started to change. But I eventually drew them all, like 1 to 22, and colored them in with color and stuff, crayon. And I was kind of rushing through them just because it was so fun. Like, it was so therapeutic and fun to just do. To see it come to life from nothing was just fun to me. So I did that, and then eventually, like, I hung them up all on my wall, and I just kept drawing. And then eventually, and it was just like a hobby. And eventually my dad went to, because he was a Nike like VIP member at Nike Town, which is called Nike Store now. If y'all live in Denver on that 16th Street Mall with where the H&M is, that's where like a Nike Town used to be for y'all youngins. I know a lot of y'all that have been here forever or been there forever. I'm not in Denver no more. Y'all know what I'm talking about, but for some of y'all know that as H&M. So that used to be a Nike Town or Nike Store, and my dad was a VIP access member. So whenever they would hold certain events, like special events, he would get invited to them. So there was one for the Melo 1.5, which was Melo's first signature shoe. And the designer, who's Dwayne Edwards, he was actually in town that day. And he came for the release and stuff, to talk to the customers, explain the design, that type of stuff. And so my dad just started kicking it with him, started talking. They basically went into, my dad's, he's been collecting Jordans forever. So he told him about that. But then he eventually got into me and what I was doing at home with just drawing sneakers. And this is something my dad and my mom, like, thank God for them, because of course I had the parents that I have that really love me and want to see me do well. So thankfully I had that support system with me, which is super important. Anytime there's an opportunity for their kids, or they see something or some sort of window to talk about what their kids are doing, they always take it. My parents never are shy about expressing to others what their kids are into or what their kids are doing. They're so proud of us, and they just want the best for us. And so they always put us up on display whenever. My dad did the same here. No surprise. So told Dwayne what I was doing, and Dwayne goes, it's pretty dope. He can, that he can, or does he know that he can actually make a career out of that?